Hello, a happy spooky October to you. It's October 26th, 2023, and this is the Backdrop Weekly Developers Meeting. We get together almost every week to talk about development priorities and tasks for Backdrop CMS. Primarily core, but we touch on some other topics from time to time. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet. I'm core committer and technical lead for the Backdrop project. We've got a small group of people here today. We'll go around the room and do some introductions. We'll start with Jen, if you're available, and then we'll go to Tim.
Sure. I'm Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California.
Thanks, Jen. Tim, and then Luke.
Tim Erickson, I'm St. Paul Tim, and I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota.
Thanks,
Oh.
Tim. Luke, and then Izzy, if you'd like to do an intro.
Luke McCormick, sell ear on the various places. I'm in San Ramon, California. And I think I should have been wearing a costume. This is the Halloween episode of the Backdrop meeting, but looking around or something. I just got back from DrupalCon Europe, and I'm thinking actually there are some Backdrop connected things that if there's time at the end, maybe I can throw in.
Yeah, that'd be great. Izzy, and then Greg.
Oh, hi, I'm Izzy from Vancouver, BC. I'm more a Backdrop enthusiast, certainly not a developer like you guys, but I'm just interested in seeing what's going on.
Great. Thanks for being here. Greg, and then Joseph.
Hi, I'm Greg, usually in Australia, but now for past several months, coming to you from Greece, and so excited to be helping around with everything related to Backdrop. Lots of things to discuss. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Finally, Joseph.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and a core committer.
Great. Thanks for being here. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Great to have this group together. We have a small contrib and community update. Jen, I think that you can give us.
Yeah, we had a ton of activity in the contrib space this week. We've got a whole handful of new modules that are out. I'm gonna read through the list here. I'm not gonna describe what each one does. We have fuse ticker, gas scroll trigger, multiple fields remove button, tiny MCE, video filter plugin, SendGrid integration, and Halloween lights.
Great.
Thank
I
you
was
to
also
all the contributors who worked on all the modules.
yeah, the schema meta tag module. I thought that got a release this week too, but maybe it doesn't. It's not official yet.
It might have also already existed. Those are
Oh.
only brand new ones.
Yeah, maybe there was already previous release. Okay, great. Okay. Let's see other upcoming news. We've got Bad Camp, the Bay Area Drupal camp around the corner. Bad Camp is coming to us in an unusual form this year, and that it's not really a camp so much as it is a big code sprint. They're calling it Hackathon. It's November 17th through 19th. There's been some community rallying to have a Backdrop contingent present at Bad Camp. According to the Bad Camp FAQ, Backdrop is explicitly allowed at this event, which is great. It's actually kind of like a competition type thing where you give a pitch and then they judge, I guess. I'm not really sure if that's the route that our projects will take. But there's some efforts to get Backdrop developers there, spearheaded by our community member Irina Zaks. And she has a particular interest in backwards compatibility and getting stuff off of Drupal 7. And so I see a likely outcome of that as some progress on the D2B module, likely the Drupal to Backdrop module. If that's I don't know. I think we're all kind of at the whim of Irina as far as what what we want to focus on. But in the past, that was the most important thing, and I think that might be where we put our efforts. Let's see. It's in San Francisco. You can find out more about it. Let me make sure I don't get the URL wrong. It's at badcamp.org, not .net anymore. Okay, let's see. Okay, so core development. Let's see. We're going to start off talking about something a little bit boring, generally speaking, and that's spell check. But a while ago, we added automation to our core pull requests using the CSpell library that just spell checks pull requests as they come in. And I think we have a little bit of a problem in that it spell checks a little bit too much sometimes, like outside of the pull request, you're actually doing it, just like spell checks everything. And so we have to get the spell check like exception list or dictionary like built out and other various problems so the pull requests aren't failing when the author of the pull request did nothing wrong. So Greg, do you want to go a little bit more in depth here about what kind of improvements you have been
Yeah.
working on?
So instead of having a huge single issue for everything, I try to keep everything separate because there might be objections for various things or certain things need to get in faster without complicating things. So I'll start with issue 6255, which was a pre-existing issue. We had a pull request, we merged it, but more and more words keep coming up as unknown in several PRs. So I started compiling those things from my pull requests and other people's pull requests where I see common words. And I've created another pull request and I've been doing commits the last couple of weeks. The sooner that we merge that, it will unblock a lot of pull requests. And by unblock, I mean most of them have every test passing PHPCS and all the functional tests. The only red X is the spell thing. So once we do that, and with the help of the rebase button that we have available now, all these things will go green. So that's a start. I need to point out that in certain situations, instead of adding the words to the dictionary, what I've done is CSpell was tripping up because it might have been a compound word, and all I've done is if this word was a variable that was used only 3 times in a very specific test, I just changed that variable name because it was just within the scope of that test instead of keep adding words to the dictionary, and that makes the test pass. So yeah, that's one starting issue. The next one is issue 6276, sorry. And that is just a 3-liner change, which basically updates the version of the CSpell GitHub action to version 4 from version 2. Which has updates to certain dictionaries, also PHP dictionaries and stuff like that weren't included in version 2, and also does a couple of other things. It upgrades the checkout action that we have to version 4 that has some fixes, and also, and this is very important, adds a new flag which is called incremental files only, which means that now CSpell will keep nagging only about the files that have been touched by a pull request and not
Great.
the rest of the code base.
Oh, well, that'll mitigate most of the problems.
Yes. So yeah, and this is why I said I want to bring all these boring things up, because it's going to unblock so many things, and I really need attention from core committers, because it's very simple pull requests, and if we get to merge them, we're going to block so many people and so many pull requests. Okay, moving on. Next is spell related thing. That's issue 6262. So CSpell also allows specifying forbidden words, and recently we have merged some pull requests that have removed the majority of words like master, slave, whitelist, and blacklist from our code base. What this does is so there's 2 ways to do that, to specify forbidden words. Either you go to the dictionary and you add words the same way that we used to add it with an exclamation mark at the beginning of the word, or you can add it to the CSpell configuration file, the JSON file, as a section, an array, and that has the added benefit of not only pointing out that this is a forbidden word, but also suggestions. And I've chosen to go with that option.
I like it. Yeah, that sounds great.
So there's a caveat though. the Git. So cspell is not just the GitHub action. It's a suite of other things, command line tools, and so on. So this feature is meant to be working with it, but it currently is not working with the GitHub action, but it might in the future. By putting it in this format, we are ensuring that it will at some point, instead of just saying, oh, it's an unknown word, it would also throw suggestions. And that's why.
Okay, so, but it does have the ability to flag it right now, even in the action.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
That's
but
a
it
good
just
start.
doesn't. Yes, it doesn't say forbidden word though. It says unknown word, but that is something that will be fixed eventually upstream, and then we'll benefit from that.
Mhm.
All right, so that's another small pull request. Moving on, please bear with me. Next, I'll leave that one for last. Okay, issue 6280. This is a recent one. Because I don't want to bother core committers with small things like that. What we are doing is we are using two dictionaries currently. One is the Drupal dictionary that we are pulling remotely from git.drupalcode.org. And the other one is a custom backdrop dictionary that we have locally in the repository. What I would like us to do is same as we are doing with PHP CS, that we are hosting it in our backdrop-ops repos. I would like us to open a new repo called cspell, move the dictionary there, and then organize a team that don't necessarily have to be core committers that maintain that and maybe keep adding words faster. So something like the bug squad, but just for that repository, only for words to be added. So that we don't have to wait on core committers to become available for words to be added in core. Yep, that's for consideration. And then the last one, yep, the last one is 6260. And you've already commented the previous time, Nate, on this one. So there's a flag about allow compound words. So I've done a little bit more research, and I'm ambivalent at this point about allowing them or not. But at this point, even cspell, the team behind cspell, seems to be trying to get away from it. So they have it in their documentation in a legacy section, and they point out in various issues that it's causing more trouble than being of benefit. So maybe we'll need to rethink that. So, and that's the end of the cspell saga.
Great. Yeah, I think all of these sound really pretty good. Just add more words seems like that's a good starting point. And then updating cspell also seems like an easy win. Forbidden words also seems like a good idea. The dedicated repository, I also like that idea. I just don't like the idea of doing the work.
No. If someone creates the repo for me and adds me as a maintainer, I'll do the work.
Okay. That sounds great. Let's see. And yeah, I have a little bit of concern about coordinating, like, between core and the external project, but as you point out, we're already doing that for code style, and so it's going to be the same thing. And I think consistency actually makes a good amount of sense there. Izzy, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was noticing that Greg's repo, when you're looking at a diff or a patch, it showed the .cspell, the .cspell directory in there. And I don't know if that's because you're just in the midst of doing a lot of stuff, but I would expect that wouldn't normally be part of a pull a pull request. That it's like a configuration directory that would not be part of the diff.
You mean, all right, so there's a few pull requests that have been failing, and I've been trying to, unrelated to those issues that I mentioned now, and in my effort to make them green, I started adding those words, but then I've done it so many times and I said, that's enough, we need to centrally sort of like take care of this. And this is what caused me creating all this series of issues. If those things, especially the one that adds the words issues, the pull request that is for 6255 gets merged, then I will, once I rebase my pull request, I will not need that anymore. But our repository, if that's what you're asking, does contain a .cspell invisible sort of like directory, and that's where we hold we keep the configuration.
Right.
So it's intentional.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was part of the process you're working through.
Yep, yep.
I'm taking a look real quick. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, sorry.
I was just seeing, I was double checking that. So cspell, .cspell, and .github and other of those invisible directories are correctly excluded from the packaged versions of Backdrop. So they exist in the code version, like on GitHub, and if you do a git checkout, but when you download Backdrop, that directory just doesn't exist. For better or worse, actually, because I'm thinking about contrib projects, for example. They sometimes set up their own automated testing, like they have them, they run simple tests through GitHub Actions, and one of the things they do is they download the latest release of Backdrop. They could use a git checkout as well as an alternative, but I think most of them just use the latest release. And if this dictionary is not in there, then they have no way to get it other than cloning the repository. So this is a good argument in favor of what Greg is suggesting, that we should move the dictionary out into its own project so that there's a place to get the dictionary that is not part of core. Because also you don't need to check out all of, like the GitHub action for cspell shouldn't need to check out all of core to get a dictionary in contrib.
Yep.
And it can stand alone. It doesn't need core for anything else if it's all it's doing is checking the spelling. So good reasons to separate that out.
Yeah, there is an open issue in the cspell GitHub Action repository in the issue queue to also allow the cspell.json configuration file to be hosted remotely. I don't know if in the future we want to take advantage of that, but for now, let's just look into moving just the dictionary, just to unblock things and crowdsource the contributions into that dictionary instead of waiting for commits into core.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, and it will, if we keep adding words at some point with the cspell dictionary being into within the core repository, it means that pull requests need to be rebased. Whereas if we have it outside, all we have to do is close the pull request, reopen it, and then the test will just grab the latest version of whatever has changed. So that's less rebases, I guess, less need for rebasing.
Yep. If you don't mind, I'll use that particular topic to segue into the next thing, which is we are having some issues with Tugboat again this past week, seemingly corresponding to the new release coming out, but maybe it was something else. But a lot of contributors are having some trouble getting Tugboat building their pull requests. But Tugboat was saying that it couldn't figure out how to merge the pull request work in with the latest 1.x branch of Backdrop. And so we're not totally sure why Tugboat started being unable to merge things, but we did find that this problem can be solved by updating the pull request to use the latest 1.x branch, do a merge or a rebase on the pull request. However, there's a lot of different ways to do a merge. There's like 4 different strategies, and we think that perhaps some of the strategies for merging don't actually get GitHub to or not sufficient for Tugboat to actually apply its changes somehow. I don't know. Well, anyway, the upshot of it is that as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, there's an option in the GitHub user interface for enabling a button that allows you to rebase or merge in the latest default branch work into a pull request without doing anything.
You frozen for everyone
Nate
else?
froze. Yeah,
Hmm,
Yeah,
I
And
think-
no worries.
once that button was
Wait, wait.
enabled, oh,
You've
go
been
ahead.
frozen for about 10 seconds. Could you rewind?
Oh, sorry. I thought Luke was just holding really still. Everybody was smiling. Everything was fine. Sorry. Anyway, the short of it is that there's a button now enabled in our repository that allows you to merge in the latest 1.x into your pull requests. And if Tugboat is failing, the first thing you should try is clicking that button to pull in the latest 1.x into your pull request. And so far, from what we've seen, it's been 100% successful. 90% successful
99
in getting pull requests a sandbox. So also just a convenience thing now that button is available. Sometimes there were conflicts or whatnot, and just having that button there makes it so that people can now update their pull requests a lot easier. The button is only available to core committers and the original author of the pull request. So you won't see it on all pull requests, but once that you file, you'll be able to self update just by clicking the button.
And if your branch is already rebased, you won't see that button, of course. And if it so happens to fail, then you just need to fall back to the old way of closing the pull request and reopening it, and it should work that time. Having said that, I also filed 6278, which we can discuss. Just it's an FYI, which is a reset of various GitHub actions that allow other people that we can specify who these other people can be that can trigger a rebase if it's needed just by commenting with a keyword. But that's for a future discussion. We have plenty to discuss.
Okay, what was it? 662.78?
78. So it's there's a few three. One of them is sort of like legacy. Two of them practically GitHub actions where you can just anyone can add a comment with a keyword like /rebase, and one of them actually allows you to limit, say, to the people that we add to the contribution team. See how new people come, and then we add them to the documentation team. Sorry. So we can say you need,
team,
yeah, exactly. So we can say they need to be part of this team to actually to actually be allowed to cause that rebase, just so that we don't have abuse by bots or whatever.
Yeah, there's actually even an option in the GitHub UI or under the same thing for like enable the button. You actually can have pull requests automatically rebase every time there's a change. But I was like, no, we've got like 600 pull requests, and the amount of actions that would trigger, like running all the tests on 600 pull requests every time we do a commit would be overwhelming. So not a good solution for us. I think this sounds better though, where it's like just requires some kind of comment or a keyword to actually trigger it. Yeah, I could see.
Yeah,
that
and also 600 pull requests might reach the limit for Tugboat because we have 50 gigabytes, and we might just reach it and then no more sandboxes.
Okay. Yeah, this will take a little bit of research. It's issue 6278.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I have one more topic on the agenda, and then we can kind of open the floor. And that's CKEditor 5, some updates happening over in the world of Contrib. So CKEditor 5 is where we're developing, or the Contrib module is where we're doing the development on CKEditor 5, which we're planning on moving into core eventually. The module had a new release this week that adds a lot of improved functionality. In particular, the image browser is now integrated into the image button. So when you click on the image button, it will open up the backdrop image browser, allowing you to select an existing image and to upload a new one. That is working great. And we also got link attributes working. So things like title, alt classes, all of the other the other attributes that you can potentially put on an anchor link are now supported in the backdrop link dialog. Overall, it's really coming together very nicely. We have the generic HTML support that was in the last release, but that seems to be really pretty good. Almost making it so that there's no difference between CKEditor 4 and CKEditor 5 in terms of like being able to look at a piece of content and having it not change. I'm working now on the warning to make it so that it detects if there's actually a change that happened just by CKEditor loading. And yeah, I mean, it's actually getting surprisingly close to being totally usable. So if you haven't, maybe give CKEditor 5 module a shot. Might not be a bad time to try it. And yeah, lots of good progress over there. Right, I'm a little bit stressed that the deadline theoretically is November 22nd for the end of life on CKEditor 4, but there's no way that we can put in this contrib module. I mean, there's not going to be a release of Backdrop Core until January 15th, so it's the earliest possible date at which CKEditor 5 would be in core. But still, it's feeling a little tight. You know, our contrib module isn't even, you know, doesn't even have a final release. There's nobody using it. So I guess I'm just feeling a little bit of a time crunch here and like trying to get CKEditor 5 core ready for the 127 release. But it's not looking bad. It's actually looking pretty good. Still a little bit stressed about it. So
At DrupalCon, I was standing in front of the CKEditor booth for a while, and I was thinking about going in and yelling at them for what they did with CKEditor 5. But
yeah,
they decided not to.
They've heard it, I'm sure. I mean, this is I do still wonder. I've been working a lot on it this week, and sometimes I'm just like so frustrated with how complex it is that I wonder if it's a mistake continuing with it. I don't know. It's really complicated. It's funny because I know why they did it, but the different representations where there's the model and the view, but they're actually both DOMs. So it's like it's a weird thing where it's like it's still using the DOM for the model and for the view. I'm not going to get into it. It's complicated.
The other option would be TinyMCE or something, or
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no way that we can build our own editor. There are other editors out there, TinyMCE being one of the most well-known. I hate to suggest things like, maybe not hate to suggest, but there are things like, you know, WordPress has its editor now, Gutenberg, which is actually its own separate project. There's also rich text editors that are maintained by Atlassian, like what they use inside of Jira, which is pretty excellent. But I don't know, all of these things, like none of them are as good an option. Like CKEditor has some really incredible difficulties in it, but I actually think that overall, like their editor is like it's super capable. It's just difficult to work with, and so hopefully once we get over these initial teething problems, that that it'll work well for us. I hope. Let's see. Oh, and there's a related core issue that I'd love to get some eyeballs on. It is issue 6250. There's a pull request on this one that is the issue is to update CKEditor, the label CKEditor throughout all of core to CKEditor 4. So it's a really minor set of changes, just a bunch of string updates and code comment updates. But this will help us prepare for having both CKEditor 4 and CKEditor 5 in core at the same time. We need to distinguish between those two versions. That's all I've got on CKEditor updates. Yeah, Greg, do you want to, or anyone, we can open the floor for other comments or questions. If anybody has any other topics they'd like to discuss.
I don't have plenty, but I'll let everyone else have a go first before I hold the rest of the discussion? I think that Nate froze again. Yep.
He does look pretty frozen.
And-
Greg, you also sound like you're at the
Yeah.
bottom of a tin can.
Oh, is
That's
that any
better.
better?
That's
Yeah,
better,
it's
yeah.
a little better, yeah.
All right, sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped there for a minute, but yeah, go ahead if there's anything.
Does anyone else have anything? Because I have plenty. Nope. Okay,
Take it
so
away.
there's issue 5090, which I have been working for in a couple of years, and it's also a pet peeve for Robert. And he had RTBC'd it like a few days ago, and I sabotaged myself because I said, "Oh, we missed the spot." So this is the issue where we're trying to replace the more or less links that we have in various places with a consistent details element and the respective theme function for that. And I was working on like I sort of like saw that it was RTBC and I left it there sitting quietly. And then I was working on another issue related to permissions, and I noticed that our permission page now has more or less buttons. So I've set it back to needs code review and testing just for the addition of code that handles that in the permissions page. Jen, you as myself have been away for a while. Because this has UI, UX, and it has some styling, usually you have opinions and you cut things that we don't. Whenever you have some time, maybe have a second look and see what is up with that. But yeah, just to solicit final thoughts on that so that I can move with other things. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, Izzy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I did. I think it looks good, but I just today noticed that when I was in a different module that people might not be using, like module filter, it shows configurations as part of its UI, and it's just got the arrows, like the down arrow to expand it and collapse it. It doesn't have any other wording. So I wasn't sure, just quick thought, is the changes that are in this pull request, will they interfere with that kind of one symbol use that might happen in some of the contrib modules?
I haven't looked at that. Can you please add a screenshot and mention the problem so that I can have a look at it? Maybe
Yeah,
certain
I
things
think-
that I've changed were touching code
I
that
don't-
would be, yeah.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure module filter defines its own, because if they didn't say more and less, it probably wasn't using the core function for generating those. But in general, having an icon by itself is a usability problem. And so we wouldn't have implemented anything like that in core. So that should be a issue against module filter. And it could be as easy as like update this to use the new details element. And then they would have to choose a label to put in there in addition to the indicator.
Okay, I'll add it to that issue queue as an observation.
Thank you. That's great.
Yep, thanks. So yeah, that issue has some changes in the CSPEL dictionary, which if we merge that pull request, that other pull request, I'll just rebase and it will go away and it will be less changes. The last comment there was by Doc Wilmot. He says he likes the solution, but he finds the pull request surprisingly extensive. And I'm not sure if he says it in a good way or a bad way. I know that the pull request removes a lot of repeated, so the same basically JS function spread around like, I don't know, 5 places or more, doing the same thing. Yeah, so it's a lot of cleanup, and it's one of the things that I like about this pull request.
Cleanup.
Great. Sorry, I had to move. My battery is dying. Okay. Any other topics?
I just an announcement. Greg, I created a spelling bees group I added you and Nate and Tim and I, because we're all here. But if anybody else wants to be in that group, just have them ping me into, or actually you guys are admins, you might be able to add them. I don't know. If you have any trouble, you can ping me.
Did you create the repo as well?
Yes, and I made the spelling bees have access to it. I pulled the current file from core. So all the pull requests you have against core that want to change it will need to be moved over to this one, but only after core is updated to use this. So Greg, maybe I'll let you manage the timing on that.
Yep.
And
Okay.
then we should maybe also set up a official process for having people get added to that file. I feel like we're all PMC members or Nate's a core committer, so it's not such a big issue for us. But if somebody's not a PMC member, we should maybe give them an option in the contrib queue or something to say, hey, I want to work on this, and we can then have a record or a good way of getting them in there. So yeah.
And also if people, because I always keep eyes on the pull request so long I'm not in a hiatus or something away from the community. But I would like to offer ways for people that are contributing, if they're blocked because of spelling errors that are complained, the CSpell is complaining in the pull request, they can, I was imagining that we should allow people to ping us on Zulip or create an issue in the issue queue of that ops repository, or just ping us as a group in the pull request and we can action accordingly. But yeah.
Sounds great.
All right, cool. Thanks for doing that. One issue that is worth mentioning is the one that Doc Wilmot is working on about SVG support in core. I'll try to find it. I would like to advocate, not advocate, but promote that as well. So it's issue 5541. Yep.
Are there any updates on this one issue?
Other than that, there's a pull request that it waits there for testing and feedback. Not any updates. Oh, sorry. There are actually updates because last week we didn't have a meeting. So Doc Wilmot also added a sanitizer in the pull request. So that's the new thing. So it's an added security layer. Which is what Drupal is doing as well, by the way.
Yeah, it looks like he also added a permission for upload SVG images, which is a good idea, just to separately permission that particular file type. Yeah, that's great.
So the permission is only for uploading. Once you give that permission to a group of people or a person and they've uploaded it, then everyone can reuse those already uploaded SVG images from the media library. And it's a good solution because it's a blanket sort of like, if people are very conscious and they say, nope, I don't want to, like, this is too much of a security risk, they just don't assign that permission to anyone, and then you won't be able to do it globally. This is good.
Yeah, and I imagine what that means is that on an image field, you can say GIF, JPEG, PNG, SVG is allowed on a per field basis, but you also then need to have the permission for SVG.
Right.
And so if you don't, then you can upload the normal image types. Okay,
Yep.
yeah, that sounds great. And if you do, then you can upload SVGs as well. Sounds great. Okay, that's great. That's issue 5541. That would be an amazing feature.
All right.
Okay.
And I can't remember now any other issues that I've checked recently, but I don't want to do this justice to people that have worked on other issues.
Well,
but
I could raise one that is interesting to me, but I'm not sure what to do with. It's 6240. This is the work that Wilmot's doing on CSS files for themes and color module. And I'm just wondering if people, it's got a PR there. I'm not sure if this is something I can even test. I don't know what to do. To allow a hook to alter the list of CSS files parsed by color module. And this is related to the other, where's the other issue? I think it's related to you, 2554, use config for color module palettes.
All right, I have another issue.
Well, Greg, you've commented on this issue, so you've at least looked at it. What can you say? Is there something, if I don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, is there anything for me to do?
No, so I haven't extensively tested it. I just did a code
Right.
review and I've sort of like picked some nits there. But I need to test. I need to understand and I need to test it further in order to be able to chime in.
So I took a bit of a look at it. The one that has the hook, as far as I can tell,
Mhm.
all it does is let you alter the data array that you get from color.inc. And then the config one just checks for a config file, and if it exists, loads that instead of loading color.inc.
Okay.
I did say yesterday that Doc Walnut pushed a new change, and I haven't looked at it since that change, but that was how they worked before. So basically, there's nothing to actually see in the user interface. These just are basically allow modules to have more ways to interact with the color module.
Okay, and I was gonna say you need a theme that uses the color module to do any testing, I assume, but Basis uses the color module, doesn't it? So you could.
Right. But yes, but you also need a module that would have some reason to do that.
Yeah,
okay.
I think in order to test this thoroughly, there needs to be a test module. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and do it. In order to add this feature, it also needs a test module. Like we need a test module in core to actually test that the hook works. Because especially adding a hook that doesn't get used by core, we absolutely need test coverage on it.
Okay.
Before we wrap up, can I quickly bring up another issue, which is actually another reason to get 5090, the one about the more or less buttons in, and that's issue 2873. It's one of the old ones. So the problem can be summarized by looking at the first screenshot at the very top of the issue in the issue summary. It's basically the page, the requirements page is broken because there's not enough horizontal space. And then the solution that I have proposed is the very last screenshot at the bottom of the thread, which fixes it. And the reason why I said it sort of like relates to 5090 is because that page, that requirements problem page, uses more or less buttons. So.
I see. Great. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Greg, for bringing all the issues, as always.
There's even more. There's even more. Let's get these over with, and then there's going to be more.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all we have time for today. We're at the top of the hour. Thanks everybody for coming and bringing your topics, and thanks to everybody out there that watches these videos, and of course all of our contributors who are making progress on all of these issues every day. So thanks so much.
Izzy, because you're here, I see you're commenting and replying all over everything, and I think all of the feedback is absolutely fantastic. So I just wanted to call out the fact that we know that you're working really hard to help make Backdrop better, and your time is appreciated. So,
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Hey.
All right. Well, thanks again, and yeah, we'll see